Well, here we are on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partners, My 11th Circle. We thought we would probably come maybe a few minutes earlier once we knew the target, but it was a laborious but nonetheless satisfying run chase for the men in yellow, capping off MSD's 200th game for the franchise in style. Well, maybe not quite the kind of style they might have wanted, but nonetheless, a win is a win. To look back on that, on the earliest finish we've had this season so far, Michael Vaughan and Joy Bhattacharjya, both gentlemen looking delighted. Either you're on Chennai's side or you like an early finish. Michael?
Well, I'm delighted for the tournament. You know, you don't want teams to start with 0 and 2. The Sunrisers have done that, and they'll have to win tomorrow, you think, to get back into this IPL 2021. But Chennai were magnificent with the ball to start with in the field. With the bat, it was circumspect to start with because Punjab came out and bowled great. You know, put them under pressure. You could see the opening partnership. They weren't quite getting into their groove. And then all of a sudden, Moeen Ali got out there and played the kind of innings that I've seen Moeen play so many times for England, for Worcestershire, now and again in the IPL. You know, he can really time a cricket ball. So a simple win for Chennai. The first real hammering. I mean, we haven't had one in 8 games in this year's IPL. I always say it must be in the contract. It goes to the last over. Well, there you go. It doesn't always happen that way. But brilliant from Chennai. Punjab didn't really arrive tonight.
Yeah, they certainly didn't. I mean, they will have a few little moments to take away from it, Joy, but at the end of the day, that's really clutching at straws.
Yeah, and they'd be disappointed because, the first match they managed to get across the line. They made a good start to this tournament. I think what they'll be disappointed with is that once the first 2 or 3 batsmen got dismissed, the fact that after that they couldn't stem the rot and somebody didn't turn around and say, let's bat sensibly and take it a bit deeper. And it was left to Shah Rukh Khan to do whatever he did alone. It was just a bit too much for him. And I think they look at that and ask their batsmen and say, guys, you need to be a bit more responsible. If you are 20 odd for 3, you guys need to bat a bit longer.
Well, firstly, Joy, it's about time Shah Rukh Khan had a good day at the Wankhede.
I know you've been dying to say that for a very long time since your Twitter feed.
I know, because I got trolled a few times on Twitter for doing it, so I thought this is a safer platform to bring that out again. But now that it's out of the way, let's remind all of you what's happened at the game so far. Yes, Shah Rukh Khan was the only shining light for Punjab. 106 for 8, 47 of 36. Nobody else really got started. Jai Richardson towards the end contributed 15. Gale looked good while he was there, but nobody lasted long enough. And Chennai made a bit of a meal. They could have finished it maybe in 12 or 13 overs, especially when Moeen Ali was going well. But once he was out, then Raina came and went, then Raidu came and went, and then they just about squeezed over the line with 4 and a bit overs to spare. That's the 6-wicket victory for Chennai. 2 points on the board, more importantly, Michael. And there's now just one team left in orange who haven't yet got any points on the board. We want it close, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wonder from Punjab tonight that because they got that big score at the Wankhede in their first game, I just wonder if the mindset of the batters was to go out and get another big score. And even when they lost 3 early wickets, still in their mind they're thinking 180, 190. Whereas they really should have gone, right, that first game, that's gone, that's banked, we've got the points. They should have really been studying last night's game where it was a little bit trickier. Can you get into the contest by getting 130, 135? I think if they'd have got that tonight, it could have been quite a tricky evening because the pitch was offering something. So there's a lesson for Punjab that, you've got to take every game completely separately. You can't take the previous game's mindset and beliefs that, that's the scores we're always going to have to get to. You've just got to get the right amount of runs. And even if it's not par and beyond, it's just getting in the contest. And tonight, with the way that they batted, they just didn't get into the contest. And again, there's a lesson for Punjab and KL Rahul. Just if you bat first, just post something. Even if you're playing badly, just post something by just being a little bit smarter than they were tonight.
Yeah, I think it's something Michael mentioned in the pre-show. I asked him about, we were talking about head-to-heads, history last season, and he came clearly and said, don't believe in history. And I think that's a lesson, not just for Chennai, but for all teams. You look back at the previous day, yes, get lessons from that, but don't look back at your last game and say, okay, if we made 200 the last time out, it's our birthright to make 200 again.
Exactly, and I think when you look at the dismissals, that's the problem you'll see. I mean, balls sticking on, the kind of dismissals they had after that run out. KL Rahul's run out was unfortunate. Great piece of fielding, and I think Gale did that hesitation, which just put off, KL Rahul. That split second was the difference. But that was bad luck. You have to say that was bad luck, and that was the genius of Ravindra Jadeja. But after that, and the first, obviously, the Mayank Agarwal's dismissal was Jaffa. But you leave those two dismissals aside, the rest of them were some things that they were easily avoidable. And that's something. See, now what's happened is they have a situation where they now have to bring in somebody like a Moises Henriques, because people look at them and say, you cannot do this. This is not a sustainable situation at number 7. So you have to bring in a Moises Henriques, which means their bowling becomes less potent. And I think they've brought it upon themselves.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think, Henriques is one kind of person. It's a Marcus Stoinis kind of player you need. And on the subject of Delhi, someone needed to do a Rishabh Pant here. Play a very pugnacious little innings, stick in there, play against your nature. But at least, as you said, Michael, get them to about 130, because that is kind of runs on the board at least.
Yeah, Shahrukh Khan tried that innings and he played great, but they just needed something more at 7 and 8. You need better players. You need more players that are aware of the situation, can strike it, obviously, but when the time requires you just to knuckle down. Jai Richardson's not a number 7. He'll probably be the first to admit that he's not, and they've just got their tactics wrong. It also looks to me like, Moises Henriques is a fantastic cricketer, and I'm pretty sure he'll do okay in the IPL, but you'd want more than one option. You'd want 3 or 4 options around the 6, 7 and 8 mark to kind of pack your batting. Do you go with an extra batter or do you go with an extra bowler? And depending on the situation of the game, the pitch, that's what you decide upon. But they don't seem to have got their squad right in that middle. At the top with the bat, they look strong. With a couple of the bowlers, they look decent. Just that middle engine room and their 3rd, 4th and 5th bowling options, that's where I think they'll come unstuck this year.
I want to look at what KL Rahul said, but before that, let's have a look at the bowling. If there is anything for Punjab to take away for the next game, Arshdeep Singh outstanding. Except I have a bone to pick with KL Rahul there, Joy. You saw Meredith come and bowl at 4th. He was in the middle of his 4th over. Jai Richardson got a 3rd. But the way Arshdeep bowled, would you not have tried to bowl him his 3rd, maybe 4th?
Yeah, I think they would have. And they should have. But having said that, he bowled 2, and it's not as if the bowlers that they were getting the ball to were not good bowlers. It's just that they just too little to play with. And I think the bowlers did really well. The bowlers just again proved the point that exactly what Michael Vaughan is saying. That, hey, if you had 135, 25, 30 extra runs, and this is not the most confident team, this Chennai team is not the most confident team in batting, you would have got them under trouble. No matter how deep they batted, they're not an outfit which is used to winning right now. They've come off a season where they've been battered. They've never, ever not qualified. So there's a lot of things in their head going through their heads. And, they're easy to tip over at this point in time. What you did is give them a little bit of confidence. You got to 135, 140 and put them under pressure. God knows what would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess some teams will be looking at that. Suresh Raina at the short ball. Ambati Raidu had an appointment somewhere, an urgent appointment, so he just had time to play one ball. They certainly will. Chennai, despite the victory, certainly have to have a quiet word, maybe.
Well, I personally, if I'm looking at it from all the rest of the teams in the competition, whenever you're not playing, you're studying, and you're studying the opposition, what they do, what they deliver, what the tactics. You try and work out where a weakness or two may be created, and particularly with this Chennai batting lineup, I think Moeen Ali, you can target him with the short stuff. When it's on a plate, he'll smash you all over the park. When it's kind of coming through here, I think you've got a chance. I think Rayodi, you've mentioned what he was doing first ball, I've no idea, but again, target him with that. And also Suresh Raina hasn't been playing a lot of cricket, and I think that's the area that you can target. 3 of their top 6 with short pitch, fast bowling. So all those coaches and captains that will be just sat in the hotel room studying tonight, I think they'll be getting the pen out and just writing a few little things down. They probably won't actually, because the analyst does it all for them these days. They don't have to do anything, just go and ask the analyst, don't they? But that's the kind of, yes, Chennai have won, but are there areas that the opposition teams in this year's IPL can look at Chennai and go, we've spotted a couple of weaknesses? I think there is.
Yeah. One interesting thing KL Rahul mentioned, Joy, was any team that loses 5 wickets at the top, it's difficult to come back. Now, he should be really thinking that why won't I have a little more firepower at the bottom? Wicket was different, a lot more sticky and tacky. CSK bowlers bowled in the right channels. Chahar got wickets with knuckleballs, which we do know, stating the obvious. It was a 150 to 160 wicket. Now, that's what he reckoned, and I think that's a fair assessment.
Well, it's a fair assessment. But first, as I go back to exactly what Michael said, this is what I call a portrait wicket. Portrait wicket means everything is here to here. Everything is in this area. Portrait wicket. You don't see any other part of it. Just keep the ball here, show the portrait, don't show the rest of the body, and you're fine. This is that kind of it. Chennai, this is where you need to attack them. Keep the ball here and you'll be in trouble. And back to Rahul, the wicket looked a bit tacky, and I have to tell Rahul first, find another word. That's what Dhoni said. I think Dhoni talked about it being tacky up front, and I think he's picked up on it. It wasn't the greatest wicket to bat on, but 150 to 160 is fair because, see, this is not a very big ground. And the kind of firepower that you have, you just have to control it a little bit. I mean, okay, Rahul got out, one Jaffa happened. What about the rest? And if I would look at it, even some of the people I'd have a chat with, because one of them is Nicholas Pooran, because at the time that he came in, the situation is already dire. The time that Deepak Hooda, got in, it's already dire there.
Yeah, Joy, just you call it the portrait. I always say aim for the penthouse. The penthouse, the top floor. So that's our abbreviation over here. And aim for that penthouse suite. What baffles me is that every captain has said the same at the 1K, that it starts sticky and tacky. So don't be surprised by that. Why are you being surprised at? So why are Punjab being surprised that it's tacky? The fourth game here at the venue, and it's tacky once again. Use your nous, be aware of it. It's probably going to be tacky, so you have to play slightly differently. And they weren't willing to do that. That's why they lost 5 quick wickets, a couple of brilliant bits of fielding. But, you've got to be able to adapt and change and react. And Punjab this evening just weren't clever enough.
Yeah, they certainly won't. We'll have to give credit for the first 2, as Joy mentioned. But after that, few questions to be asked. But some interesting points from Moeen Ali as well. He mentioned what MS Dhoni said to him. He said, don't try too hard, just try and time the ball. And also, he said, look, I'm not dying to bat up the order, but he admits somewhere like number 7 is a difficult number to bat at. So he said he's when he gets the chance, he's okay to go and make an impact up the order.
What did he did? He's absolutely dying to bat up the order. You name me any batter that's worth any kind of weight and salt. Of course you want to bat in the top 3, surely. That's where you get the best opportunity, you get the best chance, you get the best chance for the big scores, you get the chance of going in pretty much all the time in the first 6 where you can exploit the fielding restrictions, and you get the chance to get in. You get a chance to face a few balls and get yourself in. So Moeen Ali's too nice. He's always too nice. Moeen's got to start pumping his chest out, telling everyone how great he is, because he's an incredible cricketer, and he should be batting at number 3 because he's that good. I'll do his talking for him. He should be batting at 3 throughout this IPL for Chennai. Forget down at number 7.
Lovely.
Let Sam Curran do that.
Moeen Ali's just found himself a new manager. I hope you're listening, whoever it is who manages Mo at the moment. Michael Vaughan's put his hand up for the job. But one thing's for sure, Joy, he just seems to be enjoying the atmosphere around this yellow dressing room, as opposed, not that the other one wasn't, but he just didn't seem to fit like that puzzle in Bangalore.
I think he firstly that, secondly, he's grateful for what's happened. After that IPL, that last test match, hitting all those sixes, coming to the auction, all this is, it's a series of events that resulted in him from being nowhere to suddenly being back with a team in this thing, in the IPL, and then batting at number 3. And it's a very unlikely set of circumstances. Look back on it. On a test match, you get an opportunity suddenly to blast out. You show your skills. It's just before the auction. You get picked up at the auction. And not just one team, more than one team goes for you. So your price is also high. Then you come in a situation where there's a fixed number 3 from many, many years. But last year, that number 3 didn't turn up. And you get a chance to bat number 3. How many things have gone well for him? And I think Moeen is the kind of guy who's he's a lovely, lovely man, and he's got the best of his chances. I hope he sticks at number 3, and I think in many ways he's a quality bat. I mean, there's many things that he can give them, And most of all, he's a very unselfish player. He's a very team-first player. So he's the guy who's prepared to throw his wicket away. You need to be chasing 8, 10, 11, 12. He's the kind of guy who can really throw his bat. So he's got his chance, and I'm so glad for him.
Yeah, Joe, just on a bit of Moeen's history with teams that he's been in. There was a time in Test match cricket where, the England management was a little bit stricter. 2 or 3 individuals in the team were maybe not making the environment as relaxed and as comfortable as the white ball team. And Moeen openly admitted that he preferred being in the white ball team because it was more relaxed, more kind of his way. And just maybe, you make a fantastic point about the atmosphere in the Chennai team, MS Dhoni, Stephen Fleming. It is such a relaxed kind of method of management that it will absolutely suit Moeen Ali's style, without any question. You look at Virat Kohli at the RCB, very on you, he's very driven and it's kind of in your face all the time. That kind of approach will not work for Moeen Ali. The MS Dhoni approach, Owen Morgan approach with the England white ball team certainly does work. So you're absolutely right. Those 6s in the Test match, getting the big figures, but he's found his right home. I think of all the IPL teams and the way that the Chennai operate as a group, Moeen has certainly found his rightful home.
Yeah, and now he's got a top England captain, former England captain, offering to be his manager. It just
I can't be bothered with that. Someone else can do that.
Fair enough. At least a few words of encouragement, shall we say, to make him, as you said, puff his chest out, because he deserves that. Well played to Moeen Ali. Played a part in MST's 200th game victory for the men in yellow. Well, just a few early words from MS Dhoni. Long journey. Different conditions, a very interesting journey as he chooses his words very carefully, does old MSD, but obviously says feels good to be at number 200. And I'm certain, I haven't read that bit yet, he'll say that I would have wanted nothing more than to cap it off with a win, Joy.
Absolutely, and he's a legend. And I think, as I said, as it draws to a close, we look back and those are the days, you look at him and say that he was a dominating captain. For the first 6-7 years of the IPL, he was a dominating captain. And as somebody who spent a lot of time with the franchise, I know just the fear factor that Dhoni had. It was a fear factor. When you're playing against Dhoni, and that's the funniest thing, we'd all sit and we'd be having meetings. And, the batting unit and bowling unit would be having meetings, say, how do you counter Dhoni? And you do this and you do that. And this is 11 o'clock at night. And then somebody would say, what do you think Dhoni is doing right now? And we'd all laugh and say, Dhoni's had a cup of milk and he's gone to sleep at 9:30. Happily, he doesn't bother about any of this. And that was the kind of factor he was. Dhoni just being on the field as a captain, as somebody mentoring his team, was worth 25, 30 extra runs. And that's something that, it's very, very difficult. We look back and then, Rishabh Pant's going to be a great. He's already starting to be a great, and he will be a great. Maybe one of the Prithvi Shaws and the other guys will get there. But what Dhoni was as a T20 cricketer is just an amazing journey.
But the one good thing about MSD is he doesn't mince his words. He doesn't hold back. Even while celebrating this victory, he was asked about pitches, and he said 2011, I think, was the last time we were very happy with the Chennai wicket. After that, however hard the groundsman tried, we were not happy with the wicket, especially after relaying, the ball just doesn't come onto the bat. But he said, here, this pitch, I think we're quite happy with. Movement of the seam, bounce, runs, no matter what, as long as the ball finally reaches you.
Well, I'm the expert on Indian pitches, and I totally agree.
But interesting, he should be saying that. I mean, in whatever the context might be, obviously we often talked about this home advantage before the tournament started. Chennai wouldn't be in Chennai, Mumbai wouldn't be in Mumbai. And I think no matter what, Chennai are very delighted not to be in Chennai at the moment. Don't know about the other teams for the moment.
Yeah, I think Chennai is delighted not to be in Chennai because, again, it is a batting team. If you look at it, what's their strength? The strength is their bat to 11. If your strength is you bat to 11, you want pitches where you can go and express yourself, score 200, 220s. Chennai is really built to score 200, 220 and just stifle people in the chase. Because if you see their bowlers, other than Deepak Chahar, none of them is a wicket taker. If the ball swings, Deepak Chahar is a wicket taker. But if you see the rest, even a Ravindra Jadeja, end-to-end bowling, stifle this thing, let them take risks. That's how you're going to get wickets. So the formula for them is very clear. Put a heap of runs on the board or chase down anything they can and stifle the opposition. They're not going to bowl. Only Chahar is the only guy up front who gives them those jaffas and something but nobody else looks at their bowling attack and says, wow, that's a bowler I need to watch out for. There's no Malinga there. There's no Narayan there. There's nobody there that they're scared of.
There's no Jofra type bowler either.
There's no Jofra. Absolutely.
But Dhoni did mention very clearly that Deepak Chahar is someone we are developing as a death bowler. Change in strategy today, obviously, because of the way he came up front, what he delivered, and hence bowling is 4 overs out because they wanted to go in the attack, Michael.
Yeah, MS will hope that he never has to bowl at the death because he keeps knocking over 4 early ones. That's the best way to avoid bowling those death overs. But they're a good team. It's just whether they can last the full kind of program with so many games. They're quite an aging side. I wouldn't judge them too much on tonight. I don't think they were challenged. Punjab just didn't arrive. Punjab gave us a 20% performance, and if you can't beat a team that's playing like that, well, you're going to struggle. So I'll judge Chennai when they get up against a team that questions them a little bit more so than Punjab tonight.
For the moment, they won't rest on their laurels, but they certainly will pick up the 2 points and take it with both hands. What does that leave them? As I said, it leaves the points table with just one team remaining who have that 0 next to their name, and that is the Sunrisers Hyderabad. 2 matches played, none in the pocket, and Chennai, with that net run rate, you can see what a difference it already makes. They're level on 2 points with a whole lot of other teams, Joy, but today's victory means plus 0.616. Again, it's early days, but these are the things that block will stay for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. That block will stay for a while, and these are the things. It's very rare that you get an opportunity like that in the IPL. And the idea is to just grab onto it, get as much of it as possible. Because teams, we've seen it over the years, teams who have squandered it and sort of taken their time over chases like this have suffered in the end. Run rate is a huge factor. The only people who shouldn't really bother about run rate, and even they did one year, was the Mumbai Indians, who really, they know how to knock it over in any case. But otherwise, every other team at some point has struggled with run rate.
Yeah, Joe, that's why, Punjab played it so badly tonight that if you're going to lose, you can't get hammered. By just getting 130, 135, Chennai would have chased that down, possibly, but they'd have chased it down in 18 or 19 overs. So your net run rate doesn't get affected too badly. So there's a lesson for Punjab. You're absolutely right. Mumbai and, the likes, maybe RCB, they'll potentially run away with it. The rest of the teams are fighting for the 3rd and 4th positions. It will come down to net run rate. So KL Rahul, he just needs to tell his players, come on, even if we're not going to get the par score, let's get something, because it is important that we just don't get hammered. Getting hammered tonight, you see the table, you've got Chennai who wins, they go second, they've got the same amount of points as Punjab. Punjab are right at the bottom, other than the Sunrisers, because the net run rate got a hammering. So he's just using that nous and using your brains and your kind of cricketing, awareness that just don't get hammered. It's so important that if you're going to lose, just lose, don't get hammering.
Well, it's going to be very important as we look ahead to the weekend. What do we have on the Saturday? It's going to be a very crucial game if you happen to have the color orange in your side. No points yet in 2 games, and they're up against a champion side in the Mumbai Indians. Match number 9 coming from Chennai. We're going to be there keeping an eye on it, but I think for Hyderabad, let's start with the men from Hyderabad. It's going to be very key from them, Michael. We've already mentioned the points, of course. They look at that points table, but what do they need to do with the composition of their side?
Well, I think it's very simple. If the wicket plays like we've seen it in Chennai, and it looks like 140, 150 is a good score, they have to play Kane Williamson. He's a past master of just playing and being consistent. Is Kane Williamson a 200, 220 style T20 player? No. But is he a 150, 160 consistently and getting you a 70, 50 ball, 75, 70? Absolutely. So they have to, and I'm sure they will, having lost 2 of the first 2, they have to work their order to make sure that Kane Williamson gets a game.
The big question is, Rashid Khan, Jason Holder, David Warner. That's 3 places with the way Holder played the last game. So do you sacrifice Johnny Bairstow for Williamson, Joy?
I don't really think they have a choice at this point in time. I think they need Kane Williamson, and the only other option is that if they drop Jason Holder, which is a very, very tough decision, because if they drop Jason Holder, I think what they need to do is play a spinner, somebody like Abhishek Sharma, and get Samad to bowl a bit. The other I'm actually genuinely asking them is that do they send a message to Manish Pandey? Because Manish Pandey, whatever he's done, even when he scored runs, 38 of 37 odd balls, that's really losing your team the game. Because you're coming in at number 3, you're taking a whole lot of deliveries, and that's putting so much pressure on the rest of the batsmen. It's not funny. So I think either somebody needs to have a long chat with him and say, what is happening out here? We need to sort this out, because you cannot be our number 3 batsman, the most expensive player that we have, eat up so many balls and score the strike rate of 103, 104. It's not on. So he had the first match, and you can have an aberration in one match. It happens to everybody. You cannot have 2 matches in a row happening like that. So what's happening there, I don't know. Somebody either needs to have a very strong chat with him, or he needs to sit for a day and think about what's happened.
Yeah, but far easier. When we had this preview to the game in Chennai, it took just 5 seconds for Michael Vaughan to say, MS Dhoni's team, no changes, let's move on. I wonder what we're going to have to say about the team from Mumbai, because they're another team who just don't make changes because they simply don't need to. They keep winning, and if anything, it's the odd tactical change. Having said that, any areas, because the only change they had to make was Dickok in for Lynn once he had finished his quarantine, Michael.
Yeah, I don't think they'll change. They had such a great feel of winning that game that necessarily they should have lost. And very similar to MS Dhoni, Rohit Sharma, he didn't panic. Played well, go out again. Also, they didn't play well. They played okay. They won the game. They've got that winning mentality. They know how to win from any position, which is a great feeling to have in a team. But historically, it tells you that Mumbai probably won't make a change. So we can move on.
But I will stay for just 1 second, and one question I have. If anything, has Marco Jansen done enough so far to keep his place? Joy.
I'm not sure he's done enough, but I think he'll be given a long rope, because the way he is, see, with his height and his size,
well, at 7 feet, you need a long rope.
Yeah, exactly. But the kind of bounce he has, and see, again, I've seen Zahir. Zahir likes projects. Okay, Marco Jansen is not the finished thing, not by a far margin, but he's a project, and he's got lots and lots of what they call upside. So they're going to persist with him. They're going to develop him, and for all the bowling you do in the net, there's nothing like gameplay to do it. As long as they're winning, changing.
Fair enough. We're going to move on, as per Michael Vaughan's request. And what we're going to do right now is, when we reveal the Joy Factor question, which will be done by Joy, the answer will be provided by Michael Vaughan. Let's have a little departure from the norm. So, Joy, question first.
Okay, here's the question once again, and it was a simple one. But in Test cricket, what did Don Bradman, maybe Greg Chappell, and Michael Vaughan never do that Sachin Tendulkar has done 10 times, Michael Slater 9 times, and Alvin Kalicharan 7 times? And the answer is Michael.
Well, I'm hoping I'm right. We never got out in the 90s.
Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Never got out in the 90s. Once you crossed that 80, you made sure you finished it. By the way, Michael, what was the highest score you got out of pre-100?
Don't know. I honestly no idea. 80?
Yeah. Okay. I think we need to check how much Michael got out on. But I think that's a fantastic record. I mean, scoring 1800s and not ever getting out in the 90s is something which is a fantastic performance, Gautam.
It certainly is. We're going to find who the winner was, and then come back to Michael Vaughan on that fabulous record. Who was the one who spotted that? Abhinav Zanwar. One trend that I'm sure you've noticed, Joy, by now, we've had the last 4 questions, we've had brand new winners, and especially because the nature of the questions has been slightly different, so it's good to get new winners.
Fantastic. Great to have new winners. And, well, I really enjoyed this question. And as I said, once again, to get to 1800s without ever getting out in the nervous 90s is a fantastic feat.
Yeah, and I mean, never mind Sachin Tendulkar. The one clue for me always when I saw a question like that was Michael Slater, because it was something that was so often discussed with him, the amount of times he used to get out in the 90s. What's the mindset, Michael, to not get out in the 90s? All right, we're going to try and get Michael back on that.
No.
I think we were in the 90s and he actually got out for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I think Michael is just in a situation where he's just so happy about not getting out in the 90s. And I think what I really think is, I think it's our producers telling us it's tech issues. I just think it's a whole lot of Aussies making sure that Michael doesn't have his moment of glory. There can't be any other reason for it at all. Gautam, that's the only reason that's possible. These are Australian saboteurs out there.
Fair enough. I think after all that fabulous career, someone managed to dismiss Michael Vaughan at a point where he just couldn't get to that figure he wanted to. But nonetheless, we finished off on that fabulous note with the Michael Vaughan question. 2 points for Chennai. And, we do have Michael too for a last final. There you are, Michael.
I'm back. How are we?
All right.
So very simply, Joy, I'm sure I had some fortune in the 90s on more than one occasion, but I always say to any young player, you're nervous when you get into bat from 0 to 10, you have to be nervous. You're unsure of the conditions. 10 to 20, again, you're not quite sure. You know, if you get to 50, so you've got 50 runs, just carry on. Carry on doing the same thing, particularly in Test cricket. It's not like one-day cricket where you might have to take risks. An undue risk. In Test match cricket, if you get to 50, you can get another 50 by just doing the same thing over after over. And you shouldn't be nervous in the 90s because you got yourself to 90 by doing a lot right. So carry on. I've never been a fan of players suddenly getting to 94 and trying to hit their first 6 of the innings. I've never understood that mentality. Just play. Just carry on playing. And even if you just dribble over that 100 line, that's all that it takes.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could quickly sneak in and figure out what was Michael's highest 2-figure score in Test match cricket.
What was it?
I don't know. I'm going to get there in a second, Joy. Do you want to hold fort for a second?
No, absolutely. I just want to say one more thing. Was there ever a time that you were very close to getting out? Oh, well, our producer's already come back and he says it's 87. 87, which is interesting because that's the number Australians regard as unlucky. It's 13 below 100. They regard it as unlucky. And of course, Michael is a very, very close friend of the Australian team. You know?
And I'll tell you how it was in case it strikes a chord with you. It was at the SSC in Colombo, and it was caught Jahan Mubarak Bol Muralidharan for 87.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think that was day one in around 2006.
2007, December 2007. You were opening with Alistair Cook, and you were out to Muralidharan for 87.
Yeah, I remember it. I was the pitch was a road. I was 70. I think I was 75 out at lunch. I was just timing. It was pure batting, and the perfect batting wicket to just strike it on. And I think I flicked one off my hip. It wasn't one of those, prodding forwards. I went back and flicked it off my hip, and it went straight into his hands for 87. So,
the commentary says flicks it neatly off his pads, put straight at short leg. Somehow manages to hold on to it between his legs.
That's right. See, that didn't happen in the 90s. It never happened. I always had a little bit of fortune.
Oh, well, but that's a good one. 87, the highest score Michael Vaughan ever got out to when it was not 100, never in the 90s. What a great story to finish with. Well done, Joy, on that question. And thank you, Michael Vaughan, once again for your thoughts on that and on the show in general. Well, just one final reminder, tidbits like we just had and so much more about the world of cricket. If that's what tickled your fancy, then not only this show, but Cricbuzz Plus is what you should subscribe to, because there'll be plenty more, plenty of stories, plenty from the world of cricket for you to look forward to. That's all we have tonight. It's time to say good night and thank you to Joy Bhattacharjya and to Michael Vaughan. And all of you out there, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon on Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partners, My 11 Circle.